some moves tonight, yeah, stand up. Got something to prove tonight, so stand up. We ain't gonna plan tonight, we gonna take action on our dreams and fight, alright. We ain't gonna stall, never stop. We gon' make it all till it's out. We ain't gonna plan tonight, we gonna take action on our dreams and fight, alright.
Good evening, folks. My name is Scott Schertzen. It is Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Apologies, Halen Haru and our new associate Davi are unavailable tonight. But joining us, by the way, in this case here, exceptional MLS soccer sports writer, covers the Philadelphia Union, and all-around nice guy, Mr. Jose Nunez is joining us today to talk a little bit about basically what's going on with the league, going on with Major League Soccer, and everything else in between. So, sir, how the heck are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thanks for the invite. It's always fun to hop on and talk a little bit about all things MLS. I feel like this is the sole moment just about when the league shines before it gets, clogged up or overshadowed, I guess is probably the better term, with the English Premier League, everything that's going on across Europe, really, and some of these South American and certainly the Mexican league sort of waking up now for their season. So it's nice to finally, at this stage of the season, have front stage. But can't take it for granted.
Sure, and at this point, after more or less for most of the teams, about 24 games having taken place, we got the All-Star game coming up this week. The league is starting to take shape a little bit. That's what we're going to be talking about a fair bit here. We'll talk a little bit, like I said, about the Union, what's been going on with that team, the success, to the surprise of many, I admit myself included a little bit, but you have actually done a lot of work covering this team. You've done a lot of work, just deep diving these guys. And I want to talk a little bit about that because right now you've got a good squad there. It's a lot of changes that happen. Gazdag is gone. McGlynn is gone. Jim Curtin is gone, which – we all love Jim. He was such a great guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to talk a little bit. Let's kick this off. Right now, right out of the gate, Ty Bariba. He jumped out of the gate this year. I mean, 6 goals, 2 games. He's tapered off a little bit, but I think he's found his groove a little bit right now. Talk a little bit about what he's been doing lately.
Yeah, Ty Bariba, I would actually go back a little bit further, Scott, if I may. Ty Bariba was on fire once, and it took Julian Carranza to be sold to Feyenoord, right? Maybe right before Leagues Cup or in the middle of Leagues Cup. I can't remember the exact timing. But as soon as Carranza was sold, it was Bariba time, and that Leagues Cup run that he had / regular season going into the playoffs, and it continued, as you mentioned, right off the gate with some of these spectacular performances. It's weird to say this sentence, or at least half of it, but it took an injury as well as being stuck in Israel during the bigger side of the conflict, the most recent side of the conflict, that maybe slowed him down a little bit, but picked up a goal not too long ago, the match before this past weekend, and hard to see him not finding his way into the conversation for Golden Boot this year. But he has done all the things right, and a lot of it has to do with the players behind him, and certainly the man on the sidelines that is and are, I should say, the staff on the sidelines that are directing what this team does, whether it's in mentality, whether it's physicality, or whether it's in the heart. This dude, Bradley Cornell, is certainly pulling the strings the right way.
Yeah, let's jump into that one a little bit. Right now, obviously both of us had known Jim Curtin for a long time. And this is one of the things that I think fans don't always get it, because when you work alongside players, and in this case, coaches, for so long, you build a familiarity, and you have, at least I do, a small sense of loss when someone loses the job and someone else comes in. For me on the NYCFC side, it was Nick Cushing for a while, and now it's Pascal Janssen. For you, it was Jim Curtin and now Bradley Cornell. Talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about what basically makes Cornell different from Curtin.
Oh, man, where to go from here, right? Jim Curtin's absolutely a local legend, right? Having played at Villanova, having gone on to do great things as a professional, and then come back to his home club and make his way through the youth ranks, winning a Generation Adidas Cup at one point, eventually, assistant coach of the first team, and ultimately finding his way to the helm of it all.
The Sullivans too.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah. So it was an incredible run, but certainly one that ended abruptly. I
Hmm.
still remember getting a text message that morning saying, "Hey, there's some news that's about to break." I was like, "Okay, who are they signing? Who are they doing?" And then I was sort of told what was happening. I'm like,
Yeah.
really? This can't be serious, right? And then it finally happened, and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, wow, okay, this is kind of crazy. So let's see how the day goes." And of course, it was a lot of doom and gloom. It was a lot of how could you, why would you, how are you going to replace him? And so they landed on Bradley Cornell. But as I understand it, or as I'm told, he wasn't really the first choice.
Hmm.
At one point, they were working through bringing in Thomas Lesch, who ended up at Red Bull Salzburg of Austria, declined the position or whatever the situation was. So he's out there doing his thing, and Bradley Cornell came into the forefront, or they were interviewing at the same time. I can't recall exactly how it was explained to me, but nonetheless, it's almost things happen for a reason, and they happen that way for Philadelphia. And Bradley Cornell, as I'm told internally by sources, the entire organization, stem to stern, have absolutely bought into Bradley Cornell, what he's all about, right? In terms of hardworking preparation, next man up mentality, that everybody will have an opportunity. I joke with my colleagues in the press room from time to time where, it wasn't exciting to get
Hmm.
the rosters an hour before the match, because you could really pen in 9 out of the 11 players
Hmm.
every single match. Not with Bradley Cornell. I certainly did not expect seven changes against Houston yesterday. Never mind some of the names that he's tossed in there with the Jeremy Raffanellos of the world. Certainly, Kevin Sullivan
Hmm.
getting his time too. Andrew Rick,
Hmm.
some of it due to injury to Andre Blake, but nonetheless, Andrew Rick being even more of a revelation this year with his play. It's been exciting to see, and you could even argue that Carnell has had a better eye in terms of playing the talent that he has versus what Jim Curtin did the last season specifically. Away through Makanya, a South African who I don't want to say was sitting rotting in Union 2, but was certainly outplaying MLS Next Pro and couldn't sniff the field under Jim Curtin because it was a Glesnes and Jack Elliott show. Well, here he comes, and Makanya does his thing and becomes a regular starter. And if anything, I would honestly think that within the next few months you'll get an international call up with South Africa's senior team or some sort of, yeah, I guess it would be the senior team due to his age, as well as Frankie Westfield, right?
Hmm.
A player who last year certainly outgrew MLS Next Pro, and this year has certainly showed it as a young guy. Obviously, a bit of a blip last night, earning that red card for a dumb head-to-head sort of, like stare off type of thing that the players typically do. But all that to describe that Cornell has just done a really good job of coming in, having this incredible first season, but doing it while also trying out new things, new players, and giving everybody a chance.
Yeah. Now in this case, I figure let's swing over to this super fast. I mean, right off the bat, one of the biggest things about this is right now, this is a straight up neck and neck run.
Yeah.
Cincinnati, Nashville, Philadelphia, Columbus. Every year, I mean, basically the same three are pretty much all up there. Cincinnati's always in there. Surprises me a little bit that Columbus might be a little lower in this case. But I mean, given success, as they say, leaves clues. And it doesn't matter in this case if it is a new roster. I mean, Gazdag is gone, Elliott's gone, which we'll talk about that in a second. But at the end of the day, the results are what the results are, and they are the second best team at home this season in the entire league right now. It's, in this case, it's Subaru Park. And that's a very telling sign when you get into October, November, and you have a top 4 spot.
Yeah, and that's just it. And I even think about some of those losses that the Union or I maybe in my head I just accidentally but inherently call them losses. I think about those late draws
Mm-hmm.
against Columbus both times, right? It just absolutely demoralizing to go out that way, and certainly the way that they lost against Nashville just recently with giving up a penalty despite being a man up in the 90th some minute. So
Mm-hmm.
razor thin margins, as Jim Curtin used to say all the time, and you take some of those games and the Union catapult themselves to the very, very top. But if you were to go back to that table, Scott, and put the side that is the supporter shield, you would see that the Union, and certainly the Eastern Conference as a whole, is a meat grinder compared to the West, because those top 10 teams are mostly made up of Eastern Conference teams that are just eating each other alive, while San Diego is just up there chilling, right? And Vancouver maybe somewhere sneaking up in there too. So this is the best that I think I've seen the Eastern Conference be in a long, long time, and it feels really one-sided. I haven't kept up with how the East versus West matchup overall has been going, but again, just seeing how good and competitive the Eastern Conference is, and head to head, as you showed just a minute ago, it gives me hope that maybe it is an Eastern Conference year this year.
Again, being as tight as it is, and even if you can factor in Inter Miami, who's been a little more, I think, up and down this year than I think a lot of people were expecting right now. I mean, fifth place is not bad, but I think for everything with Messi and Alba and the rest, that people were expecting them to be a lot higher. Ironically enough, I mentioned this to you earlier on. This was the early season predictions, talking a little bit about what to expect at the top of the year. And apparently I can't pull it up.
Can't forget that Miami has some game in hand yet to go through, with at least 2 matches that I think could catapult them all the way to 47 points. And Scott, I'm not quite sure where you are. I guess
there you go.
There you are.
I have no idea. I'm connected on the LAN connection. I had a half a gig megabit connection, gig connection on there. So I don't know what the blazes happened there. I swear this never happens to me.
You're good. You're good.
So
I vamped.
But anyway, yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, no, talk a little bit. Like I said, this was actually the roster expectation, or the standings expectation at the beginning of the year, and Inter Miami at the top, Atlanta United at the top, FC Cincinnati, Columbus, yeah, okay, Orlando. It's funny, Orlando every single year, somewhere between 5th, 6th, and 7th. You're going to land somewhere every time, but all the way down to 12th was the prediction that the Philadelphia Union were going to clear out, miss, and not miss, but I mean really miss. So you see this team, like I said, being as good as they are, second best team at home this season. And it's funny because what are your thoughts about this, if you got any? You said you didn't write this. That's important. I got to mention that.
No. I did not write this. I think what this really shows you is that, sure, there's the Messi hope that everybody pinned him on for Inter Miami, and certainly the Busquets of the world, the Jordi Albas, obviously Rodrigo de Paul coming in, reportedly coming in here in the next few weeks as a TAM player on loan, which is unbelievable. But I think what this list also shows you is just how much weight people put on Atlanta spending the $22.5 million on Emmanuel Lafayette, and it just hasn't paid off for them. In fact, they just went off and traded one of their best youth center backs, and Efrain Morales, who's going to Montreal now. So all that to say that I think a lot of these folks who voted on these rankings forgot what the Union had in terms of a spine. Andre Blake had a down year in 2024, that's for sure. But a lot of it had to do with injuries, where he played, I think, fewer than 50% of the games that he was supposed to. You have Jakob Glesnes, who had a really bad 2024, but he's still a player who's had wonderful years in the past, and certainly another wonderful one this year going into the MLS All-Star game. And I know we'll talk about that more. Danley Jean-Jacques, who comes in from a relegated FC Metz team out of Ligue 1, who is just an unbelievable talent, athleticism through the roof, that just eats space like a gazelle. And then ultimately Ty Baribo, who was red hot at the end of the season going into the season. So if you look at that spine right down the middle from top to bottom, a lot to work with once you start plugging in some pieces and some revelations in terms of their scouting. For Jovan Lukic, who alongside Danley, I think I should say, as a pair, probably the most dynamic midfielders in the entire league, if not certainly the Eastern Conference, I would argue. Some other pieces that were already in the tool shed with Olwethu Mikanya, as I mentioned. You also have Kai Wagner, who doesn't hurt to have as he continues to pump crosses and be an all-star, a late addition, albeit, but an all-star this year. So a lot to work with. That as I looked at these rankings, I'm thinking to myself, do they think that like the season ended last week? Did they think that Jim Curtin's back? I really did not understand what they thought, and maybe a lot of it had to do, and I think even that list was made before some of the moves that were done, with Daniel Gastag going to Columbus, Jack McGlynn going to Houston, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's to me, it was a bit of a puzzle, but hey, you just got to commend the Union for staying true to what they believe in, which is spending little, but spending it well.
Did the Gazdag move surprise you, and did it double surprise you that it went literally across the border?
Did not surprise me. I had a heads up on it, was sworn to not talk about it, but what surprised me was the fee that was paid for him. That was shocking to me. And I don't know. I'm not too concerned about him in Columbus. I think he's going to score goals now that he scored his first goal after 16 matches with him. And it had to be a penalty kick, which is so fitting for him, for it to be his first goal. But no, I wasn't too shocked. I think Columbus is they are savvy enough, and honestly, they just probably had money sitting in their pocket that was burning from the Cucho sale out to Spain.
Did the $4.5 million surprise you though? Because that was especially when you look at some of the other deals that were out there with Cucho or Santi Rodriguez or things like this, getting 16, 17 million. 4.5 was a surprisingly low number, but I'm not sure what else they could have gotten for him.
Well, with Gastag, I think if I recall, I should say, I believe that he was on the last year of his deal with a club option, and it would be suicide, both in reputation but also recruitment, should they have pulled that option against his will, right? I think, and in one of the videos that the Union put out, and I'm still amazed that they put Ernst Tanner as on video, because he always just says something that's just like, why you did not have to say this. He talked about the negotiating between the two and how in January, while they were out in Spain, they had started conversations, and ultimately it came down to, no, we're not going to pay you what you want. So you go ahead and look for a club with your agent. So like, no, I mean, it is what it is. It's just a player who was, at least they didn't run into a Julian Carranza who went for basically free, right? So at least they got something. I consider that good business. Some others would say that that's terrible management, but it's better than letting a player walk on a free.
But at the same time, given his own struggles in Columbus, and the fact, obviously, more importantly, the team itself still doing as well as they did, it showcases that maybe the move wasn't as bad as people like myself even thought it was going to be. At $4.5 million, it surprised me in a lot of ways there, because Gazdag was in a lot of ways one of the big heart and souls of that team.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you watch, and I'm sure, Scott, you've watched some, at least when they play New York City FC, if you watch Union ball, Daniel Gastag is not a quick press and then release the ball player. He's a quick press, get the ball, and then fart around with it outside the box. That's not what Cornell ball is. Cornell ball is get the ball very, very high up the pitch after you kick it or you force a throw in from the opponent, and then get it in the box as fast as possible. He describes it as organized chaos, which I completely agree. Because it really comes down to, and I don't know the exact number, but I'm guessing after this weekend, Kai Wagner continues to be the player with the most successful and attempted crosses into the box. And a lot of that is obviously by design, because he's got the incredible left foot, but certainly the way they play.
Nice. So going forward in this case here, looking at the last 10 games of the season, what do you foresee? And if you don't feel comfortable saying that, it's 1,000% fine. I don't want to put you on the spot here.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting run. I think the Shield ambitions will be made by the end of August, whether they're going to be true or not. The Union do not get on an airplane until August 30th, barring one train ride or bus ride to New Jersey to play Red Bulls. They have home games, both MLS as well as a random friendly against Frankfurt. So it's those 9 to 12 points there, including an Open Cup. I stand on the side of lose against Colorado, which is immediately this weekend.
Hmm.
Do whatever you want against this friendly, but all the eggs immediately have to be on the basket of the U.S. Open Cup, as they
Hmm.
are, about to get into potentially a semifinal and then a final, if I remember correctly, where they are in the tournament. But should they have a undefeated August, I think that the Shield race will be decided by then. I don't know exactly what Cincinnati, Columbus, and what their schedule looks like,
Hmm.
but I can imagine that they also have a month of only home games. That would be shocking to me. So I think that's where the Union maybe stand out and have the clear advantage.
Yeah, right now, just taking a quick look, since he has three home games in August,
Okay.
three in a row, I should say, and then yeah, 5 of their 6 games in August are at home, so that's going to be a definite advantage there. But then on September, 2 at home at that point, and then yeah, it's pretty much nearly all home games for them at this point.
Well, there you go. So I think
Yeah.
the Shield race will come down to maybe those two, or certainly the Eastern Conference top spot there will come down to the two. Though I am incredibly excited to see how San Diego finishes this season,
Yes.
not just the regular season, but also the playoffs. I hope it isn't actually fittingly a St. Louis 2.0 where they go into the playoffs at first and then they sort of just they just choke there at the end when it matters.
I mean, it's funny with San Diego. Uh, there are certain cities that I feel deserve sports
Sure.
more than others, and San Diego is one of them because the Chargers went north to LA. There's a strong fan base there that for a while all they pretty much had was the Padres. So they've taken very, very well to having an MLS team out there and Snapdragon Stadium and all that, and it's nice to see. And you see certain things like this occasionally, or if you go to the USL level, Oakland. The Oakland, team, they're drawing 10,000 fans a game at in the USL over there in Oakland because Oakland keeps getting screwed on sports teams. So
Yeah.
it's nice to see this kind of loyalty and passion.
Yeah, it is. And I'm thinking of other cities that make a lot of sense. Pittsburgh has what they have with the Riverhounds, and I think
Yeah,
that's a beautiful stadium and it does well.
Highmark. Yeah.
Obviously, Philadelphia is packed to the gills with professional sports. It doesn't need anything. I'm actually even shocked that they're even dipping their toes into women's basketball because of how crowded weeks are already with sports throughout the year. Um, but maybe some more northeast or certainly mid-Atlantic places that could use. I'm surprised there's not more in North Carolina. I mean that
Hmm.
area is just it's an unbelievable space for soccer with how green it is year round, or how green it can be year round. But certainly the talent is all there, and I think it's no coincidence that the union's the union's former well, I don't know what adjective to give him, but he was the head of the academy. Tommy Wilson went to
Hmm.
Charlotte FC. I think he understands what the talent is around that area and can certainly do the same out there. So I would think that the Carolinas could have more soccer than it's already there. But you have the Independents, you have Charlotte FC. I'm surprised there's nothing in Raleigh, to be completely honest with
Hmm.
you. That would make sense. The Raleigh Durham area, especially with the tech triangle there, I bet you could put a nice stadium and pack it with techies that want to come and watch.
In this case, I mean, obviously, more than likely, probably USL side of it. With the growth of USL,
Yeah, yeah.
and everything that's going on, they're popping up all over the place right now. Now, one of the things that I posted the other day on Twitter, which was mostly positive, but got some bite back a little bit, is if you looked at the USL finals on TV, they drew about 438,000, I think it was, but the MLS Cup final on Fox drew about 468, and then
Oh, wow.
NWSL drew over 900,000. Do you see any kind of, I'm not going to say basically takeover, I'm not going to use that phrase, but when you see the USL popping up the way it is right now, do you think they could make some waves and at least challenge MLS a little bit?
Are you referring to last year's final
Yeah.
with Rhode Island and Colorado Springs? Yeah, that was an incredible final, and honestly, kind of shocking how slanted it was. Do I see them challenging? I think in a few years, right? As people
Yeah, I'm
become
not saying tomorrow, but like 3 to 5.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is going to be the result of what happens with post World Cup. I think you could
Mhm.
argue that right now MLS the Messi effect is baked in going into the World Cup, and I'm shocked, or I will be shocked, or I guess I would be interested, probably the better word, but like he's going to renew his contract. That much
Yeah.
has been telegraphed. But what does it look like after him? The MLS Apple deal is through 2030, if I recall. So Messi stays here through 2027, 2028. That's 2 long years for the league. And if I continue to write for the site, for us editors or writers and editors at MLS, to um, find the angle. Kevin
Mhm.
Sullivan's going to be gone by then because he will, as
Probably.
reported, be with Manchester City. So who is the next star? It's not going to be Rodrigo de Paul. It's not going to be, I think this league has moved on from these talismanic older players coming in and doing things. I think it's been driven more by what the union have done in terms of raising talent and then selling it across the world. Never mind, some other teams going out and getting young talent that whether it has done what they intended with Emmanuel Latela, but finding one or two gems that they can cling on. That's certainly what they're going to attempt.
Probably, yeah. Now, I've talked to a lot of people throughout the league about the Apple TV deal and some of the challenges that have come with that. Won't go into that one on this one right here, but in this is the one comment that just came in and said basically Apple can opt out in 2027. Um,
That's
but
interesting. I had not heard that, and if it's true, that's a wrinkle that maybe telegraphs how long the little guy stays in the league.
there was a 5-year opt out. I remember that. So
Interesting.
that would math out 2023, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that would make sense in this particular case. And I'm sure with Apple TV, they're probably thinking more like NFL playoffs, kind of like Netflix has it now or Peacock has it now. I'm figuring they're probably going to try and go down that road, I would think. But there,
Scott, I did see that, and this is, I know we're getting like completely off topic, but I find this stuff fascinating because my peers don't like to talk about this, and I think this jostling back and forth about contracts, et cetera, is so fascinating to me. The business side, I guess, is probably the best term, but with Apple reportedly also being interested in Formula One rights now that ESPN is potentially out of contention with their original bid or their most revised bid. 2027 maybe does make sense for Apple to rebalance the books, right? Okay, we tried the MLS thing, and I want to be super transparent. I have totally appreciated the Apple deal, and for a
mhm,
variety of reasons. I appreciate that at least every single camera is 720 to 1080p.
yeah, fair.
I also appreciate I have a very nice sound system in my basement, so I get 5.1, etc. But I travel so much for work, or I travel quite a bit for work, that I don't have to worry about blackouts where I could be
Mhm.
in Seattle watching the Union, or I could be in Connecticut watching the Union, New Mexico watching the Union, depending on the time zone. Like it's no issues whatsoever. And then ultimately, the most important to me is that every single feed or every single game has a Spanish commentary option,
Yes.
which I cannot tell you how much I appreciate, that I love and I adore. And I would honestly, should this deal go away and that's an option to pay extra, I would absolutely pay the extra money to be
Hmm.
able to have the Spanish commentary in every single game. But yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued if 2027 is somewhere where they can just pull or push the button and eject out of the deal to replace it with F1, maybe something that's more appealing and still growing.
I wonder if they try to do an F1 deal. I mean, putting it behind a paywall, I think is probably the worst thing. They shouldn't do that. I mean, what has worked well for Netflix is the fact that everybody and their brother has Netflix.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
everybody has Apple TV, Peacock, or Paramount. A lot of people have that too, or Hulu. So a lot of people already have these things, so it's real easy to flip over to it. You saw what happened 8 months ago with the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight. We all watched it because we all had Netflix.
Yeah.
It wasn't much of a fight. That's a different conversation. But the idea that we can just sit there, click on something, and go. And that's where I think some people are having a problem with the Apple TV side of it a little bit. Now, one thing that someone did say, someone within an MLS broadcaster, and he actually had a very positive comment about it. He said the benefit to the Apple TV deal is that any team around the world can scout players here. So they
Sure.
can sit there and they can watch something going on. If they see somebody in Sporting KC that they or Dejan, Jokovic, for example, they want to take a look and see what he's got going on. You could be there over in Ireland. You can be over there in anywhere and just watch it. And that's where I think some of the benefits come in. If you want to see what Chicho's been doing, you can just click on Apple TV, look at it, and watch the content. I think, and that from a scouting perspective, that was an interesting take.
Yeah, no, and I think that's bang on. Though I know that 99.9% of this league relies on Y Scout to get video, get metrics on players, etc. It can't hurt that someone just randomly listen. I sporadically go to livesoccertv.com or whatever it is and just find what games are going on, whether it's 17th division of Guatemala, I'll watch it on YouTube, right? Or if it's MLS or USL championship 2, 1, whatever, I will put something on in the background. So for these decision makers to be able to say, hey, this person came across my desk and so happens to be that they're playing right now. Do you want to turn it on? And it's frictionless. It's already baked in more or less into their device. As I'm talking to you on a whatever this is, MacBook Pro. They don't even put the name on the screen at bottom of the computer anymore. It's just there. It's just one credit card payment away. With Formula One, that is an interesting point. It is a growing sport, so to pull it back behind the curtain would be difficult. Though I would argue, Scott, that one of the biggest mistakes that MLS and Apple made, and I'm guessing it was more on the Apple side. MLS is probably just right, like do whatever you want type of thing with the type of money that they're getting, was to not integrate the app or the ability to watch natively on Android. Because as beautiful as iPhones are, as beautiful as MacBooks and iMacs and they all are, I use them. There's a whole world of Android phones that want to tap into those games, not just here, but I think about the millions of people in India that do not use Apple products, the millions of people in Africa that do not use Apple products. I think that was the biggest single mistake that deal made, or I guess the decisions maker made.
In this case, given that thought process, was it controlling, who could watch it on what kind of a mobile device, or was it more of the standpoint of we're not as concerned about Apple TV as maybe Apple TV is concerned about us?
I think it was more, let's try to try to sell devices, but they probably overthought how much Apple could command the sale of devices, or I should say MLS would control, or the demand for devices would come from people who want to watch MLS specifically. Because I have a beautiful, wherever it is over there, Samsung Galaxy Ultra tablet that's better screen than what I'm staring at here with a MacBook Pro. But for the longest time, I had to go through the web portal to watch, and that's a nightmare because it's laggy. I can't skip around the game as effortlessly as I can on the app, etc. So maybe that was their play to try to sell devices. I mean, for a while, I think, and I don't know if it is the case anymore, but you would buy an iPhone and get a year of Apple TV Plus. I don't know if that's the case anymore.
They had Betfair, one of those things where if you lay down a $5 bet, you would get MLS season bet. I remember seeing it on like the Philadelphia Union subreddit first.
Yeah, same with T-Mobile, right? If you're a T-Mobile customer, it sort of comes built in. But yeah, I don't honestly hold that against them. I think that's a nice bonus that MLS can sell itself that way, because if people are worried about how well the league is doing because of that, then is it reciprocated to MLB? Because I also get MLB at bat through T-Mobile, and that's $130 subscription, and I think MLB is doing just fine. So for what it's worth, it's just interesting that the different mechanics and tactics that they've applied, and who knows, maybe I am no PR professional, but if things were going so well, I think that they would be screaming it from the rooftops in terms of subscriptions, etc. The fact that it's been silent, and the Jonathan Tannewelts of the world and other reporters that I fail to remember off the top of my head have asked and often get non-answers, slithering their way across the question, maybe a little telling. But until this deal is all said and done, I think it's just the way that Beckham was MLS 2.0, the way that Zlatan was MLS 3.0. I think MLS 4.0 can just be sort of the Apple deal stage of the league. And after that, I think it'll be something else. We'll see what it is.
So you wouldn't say MLS 4.0 is Messi. You'll say Apple TV.
I think Messi and Apple TV are all in the same, since
Fair
he
enough.
gets paid by Apple anyways.
Yeah, there was a nice payday on that on a lot of different fronts.
If I recall, somebody had mentioned, and someone reliable, not just a random account on Reddit, but there was an article where one of his deals often include a cut for every subscription sold of
Yep.
Apple TV or MLS on Apple TV.
Yes.
So it's reported. So yeah, I'm sure that every single month his paycheck has a little bump, maybe not as big as Apple would want it or Messi would have wanted, but nonetheless, he gets a little slice of the pie.
So, okay. So you know what? Just for funsies on this, a little bit of backstory. Lionel Messi was at Sports Illustrated Field. I still want to keep calling it Red Bull Arena last night.
Yeah.
One of my guys was doing photography for the Red Bulls, as he often does. And he pulled up this picture.
Yeah, a little lewd, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know in this case exactly what was happening there. It probably isn't kid safe. Sent it to my wife because I had to. But I figure, you know what, just throw it out there for the funsies of it. I don't know what I'm going to do with that picture. I'm not sure I can do anything with that picture. But if he's getting all that money, I can throw that picture up maybe.
I dream of a day that I can see the Philadelphia Union wearing Kappa or Puma, and the Red Bulls are wearing Nike, and I don't know, SKC is wearing Capelli, right? Like I dream of a day of a free market for kits, because I must admit, as diverse as they can be, and often they feel like templates, so it's not a very high bar. I long for the ability for some of these organizations to go about their own ways, find the most lucrative deal possible, and make the kits really their own. Yeah, absolutely. NYCFC would totally be 100% Puma. Obviously, they would fall in line with the rest of the spine of the ownership. So, yeah, I just wonder what they would look like, who the union would go with, and obviously it's a shame. I know they just re-upped the Adidas deal not too long ago, so it's going even longer if I recall. So it's someday, maybe when I'm like 50 and my kids are 40 or something like that.
You're still young at this point. You're probably definitely younger than I am. So, but no, I think, like I said, you look at the league itself. I mean, the attendance in person is growing. You know, that's undeniable. It's becoming more popular in this case, and I like that part of it. I think a lot of it has to do also with the fact that you can set your watch by in a lot of ways. You know, so if you have, for example, I mean, we don't have as many 1 o'clock starts, but you knew full well that if you had a 1 o'clock start, you'd probably be home by 5.
Sure.
Yeah, because you'd have the game at 3, you'd have the post game, and then drive out. You know, and in defense of, Subaru Park, unfortunately, you only have that one road in and out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
I actually wondered about this with some of my peers in the press. With, say that there is a work back number year-wise for Messi, right? Would the union be bold enough to do what Kansas City did, what Chicago did, and move a Messi game, an Inter Miami game, to Lincoln Financial Field to squeeze as much out of it? Because Philadelphia Union only play in a 20,000 person stadium versus whatever it was at Sporting the Chiefs stadium. I don't know what capacity is there. Certainly a hell of a lot bigger than 19,000, 20,000. I don't know what the Chicago Bears stadium is. Certainly a lot higher than 20,000. So
60, I would say, for both of them at least.
So if the link holds close to 70, if I remember correctly, if not a little bit higher. So and I could see that number getting there, actually, in Philadelphia, specifically being, a metro hub in a way too.
Now, the Union are done playing Inter Miami this year, I believe, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that takes care of that. That's a non-factor there.
I'm saying the final year or two, would they be bold enough to do it?
I almost wonder if a lot of ownership is going to push for that. Now that it happened once, a little bit, it could certainly happen again, and it does concern me. And not so much for teams like the Revolution, or you mentioned the Fire, because they already got that there. But for some of the other ones, like, would the Union start playing at Lincoln Financial? would a lot of these teams start playing in
Just a
NFL stadiums?
one-off.
What's that?
Let me just go. Just a one-off. Just the Miami game.
Okay.
That's it. Because believe me, no more than 19,000 are coming to watch a Union versus a Sporting Kansas City in the middle of July, right? It's only the Messi effect. So
Sure.
I'm not saying that the Union would suddenly start playing at Lincoln Financial. I'm just wondering if they would be bold enough and have a straight face to say, yeah, we gotta cash in on this before it goes.
I think it's possible. I really do. I think a lot of teams might start going down in that direction, especially when you look at the ticket sales. Yeah. And especially after World Cup next year.
Yeah.
Because
Especially
you have 17 different stadiums throughout the U.S. And North America and Canada. So you have the opportunity to see on a grander stage. So MetLife Stadium, for example, has 2 Premier League matches coming up this weekend. That's probably going to be a packed house. And to go from that in World Cup back down to 20 or 25, that might be a tough sell for ownership. I don't know.
Yeah, who is it this weekend? United and Bournemouth or something like that?
Yeah, Bournemouth. Everton is playing, I think, also. Are you going to be there, by the way?
No, I had my fix of European soccer with the Club World Cup here.
Fair enough. Yeah,
I'm
at this
good.
point, I've been cleared for the press conference, but I haven't formally gotten cleared for the event itself. So if they told me what the press conference was, I'm pretty sure I'm going to go to, I'm cleared for MetLife.
Yeah, I would think so. That would be so backwards. Yeah, like come in at the last hour after the game, wait in the parking lot.
Sure, yeah. Well, see, MetLife is nice. It's 15 minutes from the house.
That's great.
And no tolls. So
there you go.
Yankee Stadium. I mean, there's a whole thing in that one too. Citi Field this year for NYCFC and Messi, but all right. I'm not sure. I want to want to respect your time a little bit in this point. It's already 9:45. You've been here 45 minutes. Did you have anything else? I'll let you go after this point if you want to go.
I have an extra 5 minutes or 10 minutes if you have anything else, any lingering points. But other than that, I'm good to go. I think I'm intrigued to see how the season ends, and I'm more than excited to finally see New York City FC play in an actual soccer field.
Apparently, so far they're ahead of schedule right now too,
which is rare.
I know, but no, I mean it's going to be nice that way. It is apparently completely like solar panel operated. I did get a tour of it, the stadium, the 3D model about a year ago. Brad Simpson brought a bunch of us up, myself, Roberto, Trey, a bunch of us, to kind of see the look of what it is, and it is a nice looking stadium.
I was shocked and almost regret not doing it before, but how easy I found it to get from 30th Street Station in Philadelphia, go up to Moynihan, and then take the Long Island Metro across to go out to Citi Field. Does the new stadium have an easy enough stop or access via Metro? Okay.
Basically for Queens, and this also applies for Citi Field as well. So I'm going to throw that in there. You have the 7 train. Now the 7 train you can pick up from Times Square and a couple of different places, but it's mainly the Times Square 42nd Street line is really the only way to do it. So if you went to New York Penn, you'd have to either take a subway or walk 8 or 9 blocks to get up there. If you went to Grand Central, I don't know where you can pick the 7 train up from Grand Central. I had to think about that. The New York City subway system is so fakak.
No, it's wild. I mean, I thought Philly was nothing's going to be as easy as Seattle because there's only 2 lines, one north, one south, just the way that city's operated and how new it is still. But I thought Philly was a little confusing, and then I started doing New York for work these past certainly this past year and then in the past, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, yeah, if he can do New York, he can do anywhere, honestly.
Yeah, Google map that thing if you need to. But yeah, the 7 train and basically buses are the only way you can get to Etihad Park or Citi Field for that matter. The 7 is one of the biggest trains out there. But what's also becoming a problem, this is worth a mention too, is that a lot of times on weekends they'll do construction and they'll shut down the 7 train, forcing you to have to take the LIR or something different.
Yeah, and honestly, the I'll say this: when I got on the LIRR, myself and Todd Lewis,
okay.
Yeah, me and Todd Lewis sat on one of the end carts, and the doors didn't open. So we had to walk from the next stop, which was, I think, either an Asian town or an Asian market type of space right after the City Field stop. And it was a perfectly fine walk because I grabbed some food on the way in and was just eating steamed buns while we were walking the mile or half mile that it was. But nonetheless, I found that, and I long for that with Philadelphia, right? Like for me, it would be beautiful to get into the city from my local regional line and then take one straight shot to Chester, PA, which there is a Chester stop, but unfortunately it is about a mile, I think a mile away from the stadium. And the Union, and I think it's just like a cargo railroad line, but there's literally a railroad line that runs 50 meters away from the stadium, and it's just not utilized for people. But if there was an actual stop that gets you in front of the stadium, I can guarantee you that stadium atmosphere is just very different then, because then you can get the Latino population that cheers for their Liga MX team but doesn't know about MLS or don't have an MLS team, or all of these different nationalities that show up once in a blue moon when the Union play CONCACAF Champions Cup. So it would be nice to have something that would bring diversity.
Let me ask you this real quick. So, we'll wrap it up on this one, and this is what I was hoping to go with anyway. Sure. MLS All-Stars versus Liga MX here. Do you like this kind of approach? Did you like what happened again? Forgetting the result, but the matches against, say, Arsenal, or do you prefer more of an East or West?
I actually like this a little bit better. I think I think this is a nice appetizer for what Leagues Cup is going to be. And maybe it gets the fans a little bit more. It introduces the American fans to who they're going to be watching or to keep an eye on when the Leagues Cup starts just about like a week and a half later. So I think it's a nice appetizer for what that's going to be. Never mind, this is sort of I always like when it gets a little chippy, maybe not so much in the MLS All-Star game, but like obviously there's no love lost between Mexico and the US, whether it's MLS or if you are a Dennis Bouanga or anybody else, like you're still going to have some bones to pick with Mexico just based on being a derby. But I appreciate this more than randomly seeing European teams come for one day and then just bounce. So selfishly, I think that this is the better approach.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, obviously what happened a couple of years ago was a straight embarrassment, but this at least would be interesting, especially on the heels of CONCACAF and everything that happened there. This is a good chance to see this. And like you said, everything coming up in the pipeline. So, all right. I was just curious. No wrong answer. No answer was wrong. I just wanted to kind of see how you felt about it, because some people like it. Some people prefer East-West. So I just wanted to get your take on that. So in this case here, like I said, I appreciate the time. Basically, right, have it at the bottom, Jose R. Nunez 91 at Twitter, and also on Substack, nunezj.substack.com. Is there any other way to get in touch with you, and where can people read your stuff too?
You can find my stuff on MLSsoccer.com. You just put my name and MLS Soccer, and I'm sure a slew of my articles come up. The Twitter link's actually the good one. That's where I spend most of my time, where most of my base is. It's not big, but it's there. And as you mentioned, Substack's there. If all of my content's always free, but I always give people the opportunity to financially support should they feel moved or choose to. And surprisingly, about 10 to 15% of people who register to be subscribers to my stuff do pay. So I'm incredibly blessed that people believe in me that way.
Well, listen, it's a way of giving back. And anything like that, or a Patreon is a way of saying thank you.
Yeah, so. It's incredible. I never expected it, especially with, again, all of my stuff will forever be free as long as I'm gainfully employed and this not be just a side gig.
Sure. But in this case, Mr. Nunez, I appreciate it. I do apologize also. We had a couple of burps along the way. I am well aware of every single one of them. As the saying goes, lessons learned, changes made, and I will be making them. So I do apologize on that behalf, but I am grateful that you took the time, especially on a Sunday night.
No worries. I appreciate you and anybody and everybody who's watching. Thank you so much.
No problem. Stay well.
You too.
So, all right. So I got a few more things on my own at this point. Yeah. I got a couple more things I'm going to roll with. So.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Stay well. Take care.
Bye.
Okay. So that was Mr. Jose Nunez. You can find him on MLSsoccer.com. Halen, of course, will be back next week. I'm also going to add Mr. Davi, who's been a good commenter here. Looking forward to getting your insight a little bit there. But I'm going to got a couple more things that I wanted to just touch on real quick. Mainly in this case, I wanted to zone in, if I can, on where is it? Dang it, Bobby, I can't find it. The MLS All-Star roster, and the MLS All-Star roster has some questions in there. And I cannot believe I just pulled that down. So we're going to do it this way. Restart it again. So I wanted to take you guys through this. For the most part, I do like the roster here. I think a lot of the players for the MLS team are a decent crowd here. Kai Wagner, Arfston, all these kind of guys I think have been great. Diego Luna, obviously based on the heels of what just happened with U.S. Men's National. Ty Barrio, we talked about him. Sam Surridge, right now with all the goals he's been putting out. Brian White. But for the NYCFC people, this is where I want to go into something specific. Takaoka was a coach's selection to be the third goalkeeper. Now, looking at the roster here and looking at the goalkeepers that were involved, an argument could certainly be made about Matt Freese. The common complaint that's happening with NYCFC is the fact that Matt Freese was apparently good enough to start for the U.S. men's national team, but not in fact good enough to start for the All-Star team. This was a similar complaint last season. I want to talk a little bit about that because I want to talk a little bit about Yohei's numbers. Where is he? Right here. Sokada. So, Brad Stuver, here's the thing. Brad Stuver, I do not have a problem with. I mean, Brad Stuver, I think, was okay for the most part. I like... There we go. That's going to be a little... let me close that out a little bit there. So, Sate. You know what? Let's do this right. Next month, I am going to be not even contention for goalkeeper of the year. I'm going to talk about this a little bit here. Like I said, I'm going to wrap it up with that. In light of the fact that I will be in Yokohama next month, and I will be covering soccer and also baseball in Yokohama, there may be a rant here in Japanese, so I can spruce up a little bit. Sate. Kore wa Takaoka Yohei da. Goalkeeper, Vancouver Whitecap no Takaoka Yohei. Kore wa save percentage. Brad Stuver, 76.8. 76.8. Dane St. Clair, 76.9 from Minnesota. Now, Dane St. Clair, if you look at it, in this case here, has only 73 shot attempts. Not a Jusan. Now, if you look straight here, and this is where I think even more so than Matt Freese, is Sean Johnson. Sean Johnson has faced 109 shots this year and has a 76.1% save percentage. That is fourth best in Major League Soccer, and frankly, one of the bright spots for Toronto this year. That surprises me a lot. No, it's just a short trip. No, I'm not permanently moving, although I wouldn't mind that actually, because I kind of like Japan anyway. But no, my wife gave it to me as a birthday gift. I am turning 50 in about 2 months on Tuesday. So she's like, where do you want to go for your 50th? And I thought about it, and it's like, Nippon Ikuzo. So, no, I am not moving, but I would be going for a little bit, like I said, to cover some stuff, watch some stuff, do some stuff, and have some fun. Yokohama soccer, Yokohama baseball. Might even hit certain places like the Capybara Cafe, the Cup Noodle Museum. My wife wants to go to that, so it's like, all right, fine. Shirimasen, Iko. Now, this is, like I said, where I have a problem with this. If you look at Sean Johnson's numbers, 23 matches, 1.3 goals allowed, which is admittedly a little high, granted, but a 76.1% save percentage on 109 shots faced. Christian Colina, 73%, 115 shots, 78 saves. Sate. Jukyu, Takaoka Yohei, Nanaju point Q, 70.9. Total number of shots, as you can see right there, Nanaju Q. The reason why he got this is because right now he leads the league in clean sheets. And I understand that clean sheets are a good part of this. Soれは、Yohei-san、素晴らしいクリーンシート。お前は一番素晴らしい。10 clean sheets on the season. The problem with this, and I ran the numbers on it, is go men, Tiago, actually it's funny. Tiago actually does, he and I do speak Japanese to each other because I don't have anybody else to speak to on the team. I'm waiting for NYCFC to get a Japanese player. I swear to God, I am so Jones when they do. Because the entire press conference, I'm just going to run in Japanese. I never get to do it. I don't think, by the way, I don't think Thiago Martins is coming back. This is, I think, his last year. There is a team option, I believe, for a couple of years there, but he makes $2 million a year. And a lot of people can see someone like, say, either Matt Freese or Aiden O'Neill becoming the team captain. So, Thiago, different conversation, different time, but that's my general take. Now, Yohei has 10 clean sheets, which leads the league, and that's exactly why I feel that they basically picked him as the third choice. I get that. Here's the problem that I have with Yohei here. Yohei, he has 10 clean sheets, but only 3 of those matches did he face more than 3 shots. Only one of those matches did he face 4 or more, and that was 4 shots. So of 9 of his 10 clean sheets, of all 10 clean sheets, 9 out of those 10, he had 3 shots to face or less. So it wasn't like he was really, really, really being hit hard, But when he has bigger games where he's hitting, 8 shots, he'll save 3, he'll save 5. He has 5 shots, he'll make 3 saves. Or sometimes actually he has a 40% save percentage in one game this year. So the question remains is why was he picked as the third choice? Was it an international thing? Nihonjin no okane, shirimasen. Was it Japanese money? I don't know. Yeah, well, Tylus or, things, I haven't looked at Tylus's numbers down there in Brazil of late. I'm curious. Actually, maybe I should check that out at some point. But he's probably happier down there because he's back in his home environment. But as far as Takaoka over Matt Freese, it's questionable. As far as Takaoka over Sean Johnson, that is a big one because I just showed you Sean Johnson's number. He's tied for the 4th best, save percentage in the league right now at 76.1, and he's pretty much the best thing on the Toronto roster right now after some of the changes that have been made recently. And at 36 years old, I would have given him an all-star appearance first, and I might have considered it over Matt Freese, maybe. And I'm saying this very, very tightly as a maybe, not as a definite. But Johnson's save percentage strikes out a lot to me. It pays a close attention to it because if his numbers were not as good as they are, if they were 70%, 65%, that team would probably be worse than CF Montreal right now. Bottom line, it's not good to be a soccer fan in the eastern part of Canada. So that's another thing entirely in this case. But I think with Takaoka, shirimasen. Naze kare wa shirimasen. Matt Freese, Sean Johnson, Ichiban, Niban, Takaoka, Rokuban, shirimasen. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they decide to do. He's probably not going to need any playing time. And, congratulations for the All-Star appearance. Now, the good Mr. Nunez said he actually likes it when, MLS plays like Liga MX and things like this. I'm personally more in the camp of I would prefer East and West. I like that part of it. I like that feel for it. It's weirdly unique. I'd like to see more of that. I definitely don't want to see that Arsenal thing again because, that was bad. But I would like to see something in that vein where you start to see, East versus West again. And I think they're trying to do a lot of different things where they're trying to spruce things up, generate interest. They could be panic moves. I'm not sure. Right now I forget the dude's name, but they've got some YouTuber who's doing the skills competition. He's got a big fan base, not going to lie. He's got a really good soccer fan base, so kudos to that and respect there. But they're trying to bring in people to try and bring in eyes. And I'm not sure if that's really going to work in this case. Like I said, I posted something earlier in the week in regards to USL. Got a little backlash on that, but I kind of stand with it because I think it'll be interesting. Oh yeah, I show. Yeah, I show speed. That's the guy. But yeah, I don't know. I have a couple of my YouTubers that I follow, but he's not one. MLS Moves is the soccer one I do follow. I do like that dude. But yeah, I mean, as far as something like this goes, kudos to him for getting into that All-Star Challenge like that, or the Skills Challenge. It's a good opportunity for him, and his fan base, will definitely gravitate towards it. So kudos there. But I like I said, it's a surprising move. The Dochi move that happened earlier this year, where they started having her doing advertising for MLS, but they aired it before the Super Bowl started, so nobody kind of saw it. Was a questionable move, and I talked about that one. I like the attempt, I like the idea, but nobody really watches the Super Bowl until the Super Bowl starts, so nobody watched the ad, and that was my thing. So, what they really need? What what you need to do? You need to get somebody like if you can figure out a way to get shit, man. I mean, shooting for the moon here, but you get a Jacksepticeye. You get somebody like him. You get somebody like you won't get Mr. Beast. You get Mr. Beast, you're done. I would look at maybe some of the YouTuber events that are out there. Maybe get some ties to that. Maybe depending. Creator Clash. It was canceled, but Creator Clash is a big thing with some of the bigger YouTubers on the planet, and a charity boxing event for cancer. Creator Clash 3 was canceled. I am trying to work on some stuff behind the scenes to reboot Creator Clash. I had a couple emails today, had a couple meetings on that, so we'll see what happens there. Oh, Christ on a stick. Oh, God. Logan Paul, Jake Paul, KSI. Sure, why not? Brought to you by Prime. Yeah, the first YouTube boxing event, and people are like, wow, YouTubers are boxing each other. And then just Jake Paul is just like, oh, I'm going to just fight everybody under the planet. What was the line from the ESPYs the other day? I forget if it was Shane Gillis was the guy, who was talking to, was it Hector Macho Camacho? I think it was, or Sugar Ray Leonard. He's like, Sugar Ray Leonard, hang in there. In 20 years, you'll be old enough to face off against Jake Paul. Yeah, I know. Like I said, I got some things about that. So it's funny because I'm going off topic, but you know what? Screw it. My wife's in Maine. I got the house to myself. I'm under no schedule here. A lot of boxers hate what boxing has become because of YouTube fights. Listen, I'll give Jake Paul some credit. He does work out. He is a decent boxer for his size. He is good at what he does. And I give him credit for the workout ethic or workout routine. I 1,000% do. I like that. I'm proud of him for that standpoint. But boxers hate what it has been turned into. If you go back 20 some odd years, I remember Dave Grohl of Foo Fighters. He said something that, you see things like American Idol and America's Got Talent and how they've destroyed the music industry. Because the music industry was all about, you go in your garage, you suck really bad, you get better, you start doing some gigs and build. And then everybody's suddenly looking at it from the perspective of, oh, in order to do this, you have to go on America's Got Talent. Now, I will tell you from personal experience, going on America's Got Talent does not make you a star. It makes you a pariah in most cases. Look that one up for me. By the way, throwing that back out there, yes, you can look up my name. Yes, you can see me on America's Got Talent. And yes, you can make fun of me for it. I really, to this day, hate what the NBC producers did to the clips that I had. Another conversation for later. But, sorry, my autism's kicking in and I'm getting a little off topic here. But my feeling on this is that the Paul brothers are showing what boxing could be, where it's you get a fan base, you get a following, and then you box. And that's where I think it hurts a little bit. You have a guy like Nathan Barnott, a.k.a. Dad. Now, Nathan Barnott was a YouTuber, and he had personas before he went into boxing. Little different. But I think a lot of people are looking at it as like, well, if I want to become a boxer, first I got to get famous on TikTok. And then I'll become a boxer, And that's where I think the industry is going. And who knows? That might be where the industry for a lot of other sports go. Maybe wrestling, maybe MMA, maybe professional sports. It's like, what? This guy doesn't really, we could bring in this guy who plays independent baseball. He doesn't really play well. He holds the wrong side of the bat, and he keeps forgetting to bring his glove when he plays the outfield. But he's got 750,000 followers on Instagram and a clean million on TikTok. So we're going to start this bastard. Don't be surprised if you start seeing like independent leagues start to do something like this for the free pub. I got 1,000% say it. But anyway, I'm going to probably wrap it up at this point. A little over an hour. Again, thank you again to Jose Nunez for coming on. Appreciated the time, appreciated the insight. Again, apologies for a couple of the glitches that happened. I am not happy about that. It does piss me off. I thought actually a lot of these things were resolved ahead of time, but I take it very seriously when they don't. So lessons learned, changes made, progress, moving forward. Anyway, coming up this week on this side of the fence, as I mentioned, I am scheduled to be at the Premier League press conference on Friday for a couple of the matches that are happening at MetLife Stadium on Saturday. I'm not going to mention the location of where we're going to be. It's kind of meant in private. But in all likelihood, I'm waiting on official confirmation. But I'm going to catch a couple of premier matches at MetLife Stadium. Kind of excited about that. Kind of looking forward to it. I have not been back in the MetLife press box since the XFL 2.0 back in 2020 before COVID. So I'm looking forward to getting back up there again. I'm going to be kind of jonesed about that. But in the meantime, if you got any questions, you got anything you want to throw at me, if you're anything you're not sure about, drop me a message. info@streampunkent.com. That is the general inbox for, anything that comes directly to me and comes to some of my team. If you got questions, thoughts, ideas, comments, compliments, or complaints, absolutely drop me a message on that, because at the end of the day, I work for you. I do the best that I can. And in my case, with everything going on with StreamPunk, I got a lot of moving parts between lacrosse, between CFL, between the cinema side, between, all of those things going on, some of the wrestling stuff, some of the pay-per-view stuff. I'm actually the guy in charge of the entire company right now. So there's a lot of crap happening, but it's a good problem. But so bottom line is, if you're interested in being part, if you're interested in learning a couple things, padding your own resume, writing some stuff, reacting to some stuff, recording some stuff, drop me a message and down here, let's talk. I've got a couple things in the pipeline. Our videos, by the way, are going up on MSN now, which is nice. So it's a monetization thing. So this video itself will end up on MSN.com and be tied into various articles and whatnot. So it is pretty cool that we got that happening. And you, anyone you guys doing it, would get paid for it. So if you feel like getting paid for things, let me know. If you want to do this for nothing and not get paid for it, let me know. And if you're really, really fired up and you want to pay me to do this, don't. That's a really weird idea. Anyway, I am Scott Churchson. I am the manic autistic dude who runs Streampunk Entertainment. I am also tied into working with the New York City Football Club since 2021. Appreciate the time. Appreciate all you guys. Take care. And until next time, stay awesome.